Welcome to From the Honeycomb podcast. I am your host, Katerina. Join me as we explore stories of fearless female entrepreneurs and inspiring women in architecture, construction, engineering, and beyond. Each episode is a captivating blend of topics that resonate with the soul. Whether you're here to learn more about entrepreneurship, architecture, holistic living, or just need a little extra inspiration, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let the buzz of positive energy spark your curiosity. Welcome to the fourth and final episode of the Women in Architecture series. This year's theme focuses on the power of collaboration within the profession. Today, I'm excited to welcome Annette Wu, a licensed architect and the 2024 AIA Los Angeles president. With over 27 years of experience in the industry, Annette has built an incredible career focused on creating impactful spaces in K-12 schools, community colleges, and higher education projects. As a principal at NAC, she's known for championing best practices and refining the processes that ensure a holistic approach to both design and execution. Annette, welcome to From the Honeycomb.
Thank you, Katerina. I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you. And thank you also for being part of the Women in Architecture series this year.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm glad to be, yes.
And as you know, we begin every episode by sharing something that we are grateful for in the present moment. So what are you grateful for?
So I am really grateful to get to come to work and work every day with really dedicated and passionate people who are passionate about the work that we do. And I'm especially thinking of yesterday, we were told that we won a design build competition for a behavioral health care campus. And the team, we only had about 3 months to put together the whole RFP and interview materials, and just everybody came together from designers to our marketing team to our environmental graphics people, and it was just gorgeous animations. They did a 3D printed model, and when you look good and have all these people working together to put together the best presentation and everything, you feel good when you're at that interview. So I think it helped us really kill it at the interview.
Yeah. Oh, Congratulations. That's exciting. Oh, That's great.
Yeah, we just got the news and the whole office was cheering yesterday.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to hear how much collaboration went into it. And just think when you win something as a team, there's just that huge gratification of doing it with other people as well.
Oh, yeah. And especially being a design build competition, it wasn't just our NAC internal team, it was our contractor partner, Abbott Construction. We had our landscape architects, structural engineers. Everybody was meeting weekly to develop our response to the RFP. So, yeah, it was a huge team effort.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, congratulations again.
Thank you. We're very excited.
I'm sure. Hi, it's me, Katerina. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you something that can change the trajectory of your life. If you are ready to start your own architecture firm but are feeling overwhelmed by where to begin, I understand, because I felt the same way when I first embarked on my entrepreneurial journey. This is why I have created the ebook, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. This comprehensive workbook contains everything I wish I had known before starting my own firm. From building a solid business plan to creating your brand, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm offers a step-by-step guide tailored to your timeline, whether you're launching your firm today, next month, or in a few years. Dive into essential topics like financial planning, organization strategies, and how to secure your first client, all in one convenient resource. That's right, you don't have to spend hours researching. I have done that for you so you can focus on building your business. And that's not all. With your purchase, you'll also receive an exclusive meditation for business owners, mindfulness tips, a crystal guide for support, and gratitude exercises to help you stay focused and positive throughout your journey. Turn your dream of having your own firm into a reality with the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. Click on the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Now, let's dive into the episode. So, Annette, walk us through your architectural journey. What inspired you to become an architect, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, it probably began with my ghost.
Nice.
And I come from, the old school when the pieces were just like rectangles and squares, none of the fancy pieces. And I remember being able to just kind of amuse myself for hours making things with my hands. I think that grew into like kind of liking all sorts of different craft making things. I did photography in high school. I also did a lot of kind of like graphics, logos, and things when I was in high school, but I never felt I could be a fine artist. Like, I didn't think that would be a career path for me. So I thought, what else can I do with creativity that is impactful to the world and people? And so the other thing was that my dad used to love the home magazine section of the LA Times. They don't have this section anymore, but it was a pullout from the hard copy paper. And that's where I kind of got exposed to a lot of, Southern California architecture, things that were coming out of case studies. And I probably read my first articles about architects there. So that kind of became an idea. And that's sort of where I picked when I was looking at undergrad schools. I wasn't 100% sure. I was looking at schools that had architecture, but other opportunities in case it didn't work out for me. But
Nice.
I managed to go through the 5 years at USC, but I did almost drop out after my first semester.
Really? What was the
Yeah.
reason behind that?
It was just so different to go from high school where 1+1 is 2
Mm-hmm.
to that whole more you're being judged differently for your work. And that was just very hard to go through those different systems of kind of evaluation. But I had this one cousin who said, you chose this for a certain reason. You should really see out your first year. And then the second semester was just so much better. I began to kind of like get it and I stayed in.
Nice. No, there's that bridge from high school to architecture school. That's a huge just bridge and jumping, off point. And then I think also from architecture school into the profession as well. It's just you're making these huge leaps between worlds that you maybe weren't expecting or didn't know, because architecture school, it's intense, it's challenging, but it can also be really fun and inspiring.
Yeah, I think the criticism at that time when I went to school, it was pretty harsh. And I think it's evolved in the way, critics work with students today. And I know that from recently. I sat on crits at USC. One of my good friends on the board, Hava Danielson, she's a teacher there, and she asked me to her crits. It was just a very different environment than when I was going there 30 plus years ago.
No, I'm
So
sure. I'm sure now. And even like with AI and all the technology the students have now, it must be so interesting.
yeah, I mean, USC was a really good, solid school to go to for, I think, design theory, the practical knowledge. I think it really readies you for the profession. But at the time when I was going there, it also was kind of gearing you to become more of that individual kind of signature author, like kind of more like a Howard Rourke architect. And that's not really the way we work in real life. And right, you're saying about collaboration. Most projects are completely done with collaboration without a single author. And I kind of really got exposed more to that when I went on to grad school at the Harvard GSC. And I don't know if you know that building. Have you ever seen Gund Hall?
At Harvard, I was just in Boston this past May, and I snuck in with my stepdad into the design school, and it was amazing. Oh my gosh, the space is just, I think there's something about when your studio space, it's on that top level, right? Where it's like it has
Right.
that.
So the whole
Yes.
building is
Yes.
glass and the floors are all tiered. It's all open and you can just look over and see what everybody's doing. And it's so easy just to have a conversation with somebody because it's all open. You can walk up to their desk, ask them what they're doing. And also there, I felt like the studios, they were geared to us working on team projects. So that kind of gave you a taste of what kind of real life working in the architecture field would be like. And it was, like you said, completely inspiring just to be in this kind of big factory of exposure to everybody.
No, it's a beautiful, beautiful space. I'm so glad I ended up getting in. It was during the week of graduation, and so they
Oh,
had already cleaned up all the studio. I was hoping to see everybody's desks and everything, but still the space, because I went to architecture school at Illinois Tech, and so it was Crown Hall, Mies van der Rohe's building, and I think there's something different to being in a studio space where you can see the sky and it's all glass and you have all this natural light. I think there's just, I get such a better experience, I think, too, just having that natural light.
I haven't been to IIT. What's that building like for the?
So Crown Hall is pretty much just a glass box. It's a
Mm.
floating glass box. It's all steel and it's all except the roof isn't glass, obviously, but the sides are all glass and it's just steel and glass. And then there is a basement where some of the classes are. There's like a library, but most of the main studio space is on the main floor, and all of the studios have different corners of the floor. And it's really, Mies van der Rohe designed it in a way where he wanted the students to have, it would only be for students. Now, unfortunately, there are some offices, staff has moved upstairs because it is better lighting, it is a better view. But he wanted to kind of showcase like this building is for the architecture students, so
Mhm.
they should have the best of the best in the building. So it was a great experience being in that building during architecture school.
Yeah, it sounds like an inspiring space.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so then after graduate school, did you come back to California?
No, I went to New York because that was
Okay.
kind of my growing up all this time in California. I really had this dream to, go to New York City,
Mhm.
work there, and I had an opportunity right away after grad school to join Paycom Freed.
Mm.
So I started working there and I was there for 3 months, kind of living this dream life, got this loft apartment. It was like a 5-story walk up in the Flatiron district. And I was just loving living in New York. But then 3 months after I got there, my fellow students from the GSD, we had been in studio together with Rem Koolhaas was our critic.
Oh,
And
wow.
one of them kind of got into a partnership with him. Like Rem has a history of kind of opening these small offices with students.
Oh, interesting.
And so he partnered with one of my schoolmates and to open an office in Hong Kong.
Okay. Wow.
So they just started and they asked me when I was in New York for 3 months, would you like to come over here and help us secure our first project, which
Mm.
was a 40-story curtain wall building?
Wow.
And I thought, I just got to New York, but I cannot pass up this opportunity. I don't know when something like this will ever happen again. And
Mhm.
I packed up and I went over there. two
Good for
weeks
you.
after they asked me to go, I was there. Yeah, yeah. And it was an
Wow.
amazing time to be in Hong Kong. This was 1992. And so things were a little bit of a recession in the US,
Mhm.
but Asia was just going mad with building. There were many people from all over the world working on Norman Foster, the new airport in Hong Kong.
Mhm.
But I had the opportunity, besides working on that tower building, we worked on the offices for the Hong Kong Institute of Architects, which is like the
Oh.
AIA of Hong
Mhm.
Kong. We worked on a bunch of movie theaters. We worked on a BMW dealership, and just everything got built.
Mhm.
So in the 5 years that I was there, just literally, they're building things left and right. It always seemed like they wanted to build your schematic design. And we were
Mhm.
like, oh, can we
Yeah.
let that bake a little bit more?
Yeah.
But the great thing was you got to see your work and your ideas
Mhm.
built. So you were learning a lot from that. Yeah.
Wow.
But the one thing that wasn't so great was even though I'm Chinese, I didn't grow up learning how to
Mm.
speak any of the Chinese dialects. My
Mm.
mom and dad are from different regions, and they also, this is a long story, they grew up in India, so they
Okay.
felt like English was their common language. And so they taught my brother and I English. So when I went to Hong Kong, I kind of learned basic Cantonese, but not enough to the level that you could do construction administration, like,
Mhm.
just enough to get around, buy food, but I could never kind of advance to that level. People always wanted to talk to you in English and practice their English.
Yeah. Well, I really resonate with that. My first internship was in the Czech Republic for architecture, and I'm from the Czech Republic. I speak Czech fluently, but not architecturally fluently because I've never, like, same thing, construction admin. I had no idea what certain materials were called because that was just nothing I ever talked about with my family and friends. I didn't know how to say floor plan, exterior elevations. Like, you don't just, those aren't the words in your vocabulary. You
Right,
learn them in
right.
architecture school. So I resonate with that. Even though you may have a little understanding of the culture or even the language, architecture is its own culture and own language. Even in English, it was a whole new vocabulary learning about architecture.
Yeah. So that kind of, I felt separated from the actual execution of the
Mm.
designs that we were doing. Even though, I got to see these things come to reality, I would think, oh, if I could have been involved, maybe I could have had it done this way or, something. Maybe
A
they
little
didn't quite
differently.
interpret it the way that we had intended. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. But still, what an incredible experience.
Yeah, and that's what kind of really guided me when I came back to the States after 5 years. We're thinking, okay, got a lot of experience here. I think I'd like to actually go back to New York now. What actually happened was I stopped in LA on my way back to New York, and things were just really amazing over here in 1999. There was just so much work, and I thought if I go to New York, it will be kind of a lesser version of Hong Kong, another big urban city, but just Hong Kong is like New York on steroids. So I'd be like kind of going backwards in a way. And I just thought, if I go to New York, I'll probably have to work on like a loft building. You know, they're not building as many new buildings in New York. Or I'm going to be working on like something internationally in Dubai on a site that I'll never get to go to. And I thought, if I work in LA, I'm going to get to work on projects in my community and in my neighborhood. So I started looking here, and I really wanted to work with a firm that was deeply involved in executing their work. And that's why I went to work for Marmol Radziner, because they have their own design build within their firm.
No, that is so true, being involved during the construction of a project and how important it is, because the more I've been learning about certain architects, they step away. And once their plans are done, they're like, okay, my job is done. And I'm like, no, I want to be part of that. I want to see it go from 2D to 3D, but also work with the contractor, work with the subs, because certain things become more developed through construction that they wouldn't be developed when you're working on 2D, 3D drawings. Once you see it come into the real life, and then depending on the client, I work mostly in residential, you get their input and things can evolve so much differently. And it's like your baby, like, you started working on it, you want to see it like grow, and you have to see it. So that's great that that was a mindset that you had when looking for a job.
Yeah, and then there's sometimes, things come up on site. They can't be built. Some unforeseen condition can't be built exactly as your drawings had shown them. But you can make decisions when you're involved that still carry out design intent. It might be a little bit different, or what if, like a material isn't all of a sudden not available? You still know the origins of why this design came to be and what your client wanted to, and you can help make those decisions in construction to maintain design intent.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then you were working in LA, so you ended up staying in LA, obviously. So when in your journey did you become licensed, by the way, once you started your AREs?
Oh boy, I had actually started taking my AREs before I went to grad school. I had a little bit of a break, and
Okay.
I did some internships in LA. But this was when the AREs were in person,
Yep.
and they only happened like, I want to say 2 times a year, and they gave all the tests over 2 days. So I got quite a few out of the way in the beginning. I mean, this was actually when like they would give the tests in what used to be the LA Forum. I don't know if you remember that. It's
Yeah.
where they built a
Okay.
new, it used to be called Bank of California Stadium, where our women's soccer team plays.
Oh, the
The
BMO
LA,
Stadium, Angel
yes,
City. Yes. So BMO Stadium. Yes. Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
the LA Forum used to be on that site, and that was where they had
Oh.
basketball.
Okay.
The Lakers played there too. After the Inglewood Forum, there was,
Okay.
oh, sorry, it was the Sports Arena was on the USC site.
Next to the Coliseum.
Yes.
Got
And
it.
so they would actually give the AREs in the sports arena.
Wow.
So you would go in, you got like a 2.5 foot by 5 foot table,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually had to like manually
Oh my gosh.
I remember doing the site design test, and I had like a T-square and paper, and we were drawing the solutions there. But you're on the floor of the sports arena. You can see where the athletes run out from the
Mm-hmm.
locker rooms, and the
Oh
ceiling
wow.
is like so high above you. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really strange place to take tests, but that's where they
Yeah.
used to give them.
Interesting. Interesting. And
So
out
I
of
started
yeah.
there, I think, and then I got licensed. By the time I finished the CSE, it was 2008, I want to say, or 7.
Okay. Nice. And so, just out of curiosity, when those exams were happening, how soon did you find out your results, and how did they grade them?
Oh, you got
Do you,
it
if
in
you
the
remember?
mail.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I don't
Wow.
remember
Interesting. I
how
didn't even think
long
about
it
that.
was,
Yeah.
but the results came in the mail. But then by the time when I came back from Hong Kong and I was at Marmol Radziner taking maybe like the final 3 tests that I had left, it was computerized by then.
Okay.
And we were going to the test centers. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What an evolution. What an evolution to start with the drafting and then end in computerization. I think you got like to enjoy the best of both worlds too, a little bit, because I know now it's just all on computer. There's really no design aspect to it.
Yes, and I'm also of the time period when they still gave the CSE in person. That
I've heard
wasn't,
of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was a very strange experience. They used to do it like in a large hotel complex, and you
Hmm.
actually had your whole test in a hotel suite, which was very odd. You
Yeah.
had the three test reviewers and yourself, but you were in like the living area of a hotel suite. So it was odd.
That's really random. And also for listeners out of the state of California, the CSE is the California Supplemental Exam too.
Yes.
I should preface, I know since we're in California, we both know. So that's a little special treat that Californians get to have is that extra exam. But I do remember hearing about it being in a hotel suite. And my mentor, I think, told me about that. I was like, he's like, yeah, do you still have to go to a hotel? I said, oh, no. Like I just go to a regular testing center. So that's so wild how it's evolved as well.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. They always made sure there was a woman panelist if you were a woman candidate. Yeah.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. Huh, what an experience. Well, so then how did you get to work at NAC?
Okay. So with Marmol Radziner and their design build, they're mainly focusing on single family residences. But
Mm,
at the time, and that's where they become really known over time. But at the time I joined, they also had about 30% kind of community and civic work.
mhm,
And right away, my first year there, I got to work on a school project. It was called the Accelerated School, and it was for a 110,000 square foot building for 1,000 pre K through 12th grade students.
wow.
And it's actually near USC down at Martin Luther King in Maine, and
Mhm,
it's this very tight 3.2 acre site. So the school had to be a total vertical building. It had rooftop play yards. It had just every type of programmatic space that you can imagine, from a gym to library, multi-purpose room, special science labs, a teacher training center. And I was just like, wow, this is such an incredible project to be able to
mhm,
work on. But to me, it was just like kind of a fun, fantastical project
mhm,
until the founders of the school, one day they invited me to a luncheon that the parents were holding as like a teacher appreciation luncheon.
mhm,
And this was a charter school and a neighborhood school, and many of the parents were domestic workers for families in Beverly Hills.
mhm,
And the parents were thanking the teachers for giving their students the same kind of education that their employers could give their children.
mhm,
And I was just blown away. I felt like, okay, so this is more than just a building for the students or even the teachers. It's kind of
mhm.
really for the whole community and the support of the education process. So I was like, I was hooked, more hooked after that.
Yeah, that's so
So,
rewarding. That's so
yeah.
rewarding when you know that the occupants of your space and even their parents and just everything, it's just so gratifying, I think, at the end of the day that you were able to design a space for not only the students, but that the parents appreciated it as well.
Yeah, so kind of when I look back at my history there, I got this experience, right in my first 3, 4 years at Marmol Radziner. That's how long it took to go from schematic design through construction. But then I continued to stay. I was, got some design build experience as well. But another project like that didn't really come along. It was just like we were doing residential, we did some retail, and I kept staying because I liked the people that I worked with. I was getting experience as an associate, like kind of learning the background on hiring people and things like that. I did a lot of the interviews and looking at resumes. So I felt I was learning some of that business end, but it took me kind of like 9 years to realize I was still really kind of yearning to do this kind of project that I felt you could have a bigger impact than maybe working on a really nice, gorgeous house, but for a family of four.
Mhm.
So 1,000 kids versus a family of four. So it took me really
Yeah.
9 years to realize I needed to go out and make a move. And a friend of mine had told me about Osborne. Osborne was a firm in Glendale that was focused on K-12 schools. And I started to look at their work and I thought, oh, this really resonates with me. So that's where I went after Marmor Radziner. But Osborne basically merged with NAC. So we're
Okay.
kind of like count all of that history together. So
Wow.
now I've been here for 15 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. And how big is NAC?
NAC is about 55 people in Los Angeles, but
Okay.
we have 5 offices. We
Wow.
have offices in Spokane, Seattle, Columbus, Ohio, and we're just starting up in San Diego,
Nice.
besides the LA office. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, about 200 altogether.
Very cool. And you mentioned when we were talking about the gratitude, how it was a team effort. And so is my understanding you have like a structural department and civil department, or how does it work with a design build?
We don't have contracting or structural or any
Okay.
mechanical plumbing in-house. We do have electrical and
That's
lighting
right.
design and
Okay.
environmental graphics. So with design build, we are partnered with a GC.
Okay, interesting. And how do
Mhm.
those collaborations work? Because my husband's a GC and we always get asked, oh, well, won't you work together, do like a design build? So I'm wondering, how is it on a bigger scale? How does it work with you on a project and the GC?
I think it really depends on picking your partner and having experience with them. Sometimes we've built experience with GC when it was design bid build. So
Mm,
we kind of built our learning how to work together on a design bid build project before we went after a design build together, because a lot of these public school RFPs want to see what experience you have together.
right.
And one thing I really like about design build is you kind of really have this partner to think kind of the strategy and the design solution together and have them there being able to kind of weigh the costs, look at all of the like logistics for staging and construction. Maybe we're thinking about how to bring better value to the client than their kind of RFP brief has by being able to work together. And you can also work on, as you're going through the construction documents, you have a lot of the trade partners involved so that you're able to talk to somebody about the details in advance before getting an RFI in
Mm,
construction, like telling you, oh, you could have done it like this way. This would be better for us to construct or save us on
mhm,
time. I
mm.
love that hand in hand being able to work on the details with the
Oh,
GC's partners.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I've seen that with one of my projects right now. I'm detailing, it's for a remodel project, and I usually don't say the name of my projects where they are, so I won't say it on the podcast. But there's a project I'm working on, and I'm looking now at the details, and it's a remodel and residential remodel. And I'm at the point where I need input from the GC on what are we going to do to insulate the house? Are we going to take off all the drywall or the exterior? Like you start needing that GC. And so I tell my clients, like, there's a certain point where I can get the drawings to a certain point, but I need to start talking to the person who's actually going to be building the house and who's going to be doing the work. And then there's where you have like this cantilevered bay window. And I'm like, I can detail it to a certain point, but I need to talk to the fabricator. And so it is very beneficial to have a contractor on even during like those early design development stages, because you get a lot of those questions on like, well, how are we even going to build this? And
Yeah.
like you mentioned, cost. It's a huge group effort to make it to the final product.
Yeah, cost or the schedule. And just, I always think as architects, we are going to be building less things in our life than GCs, right? Who do this
Mhm.
day in and out. They're getting the experience, the knowledge of actually constructing all of this work. And so we need to be able to learn and tap into their expertise.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I also want to touch on is your involvement with AIA. And can you share with us how you got involved with your local AIA chapter? Obviously, you're now the president of AIA Los Angeles, but when did AIA come into your journey?
I first started getting involved with the Women in Architecture Committee, going to their events. And I want to say that was probably around 2016 or 2017.
Hmm.
And I first went to their speed mentoring event. Have you ever been to any of those events?
No, I have not actually. That sounds really interesting. What is that?
They have groups comprised of women of all different experience levels.
Mhm.
You kind of sign up like, are you in the first 1 to 3? Are you in the middle? Are you more senior? And they sort of create mixed groups. They have kind of questions that you could start off the group talking with, but anyone in the group can ask for advice and your experience on anything.
Cool.
And they kind of switch you out from room to room so that you're not with the same people all the time. So it's networking plus mentoring all together. I think they had about 3 different groups. And I actually met a young woman who was asking about how to get more construction administration experience. And so I kind of got to know her. And actually, I was like, well, at NAC, you would get quite a lot. And so that's actually how I networked and connected with her. And she's been here with us now for, probably since 2018. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, very cool.
So I started getting involved with other events in that committee. I knew some of the chairs. And then was it 2018, Patty Reed, who is one of the principals at EYRC, she asked me, she's a former chair, and she asked me to come on as a vice chair in 2018. And so that's how I started. I got involved with all of WIA's events and the planning of the Powerful Conference. So I was co-chair of the Powerful Conference in 2019. And so you serve kind of 3 years. You do vice chair, current chair, and past chair.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, I was terming out of that, and then AIA LA asked me to run for the board treasurer.
And from there,
so I was 2 years, and then so it's been a while now. Yeah, 2 years as a treasurer. Then I was vice president, president-elect, and now president this year.
Wow. No, so you just kind of keep staying in it. And one question I want to ask is, how has your collaboration with AIA and the people you've met in AIA influenced your design work or your professional work?
I think professionally, there's a lot of kind of amazing connections that you can make. And I think one of the things I'm proudest about that AIA-LA does is their advocacy for the profession, especially in the way that if we can change like maybe city codes and policies, we can deliver our work better, faster, get our ideas to the market. And I was talking about the connections, the opportunity to work with Will Wright on his City Leaders Breakfast Series. We've hosted quite a few here. We are going to host a new facilities director for LACCD. Her name is, I'm going to say it wrong, Peggy Kijada. That's on the 20th here. We've had the LAUSD superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, and we have also had UCLA's vice chancellor.
Wow. So it sounds like a lot of just the community that you start to build and the network. And it's not just in the world of architecture, but you're starting to get that community engagement, which it sounds like is something that you had wanted even early on in your career when you started reaching out and working on the K through 12 schools. It's that sense of community. And I think you have found it through AIA.
And I think just that they're also connecting with our mission here, which is, to support all of these different community groups, like these larger public school districts. That sort of really resonates with our mission here.
Yeah. Well, Annette, thank you so much for taking the time to come on From the Honeycomb and share your story. It has been so inspiring to listen to you, and I think I resonated with so much of what you said, and just hearing your story, I'm really grateful that you took the time to come on and be a part of the Women in Architecture series.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share, and I hope people can learn from my story.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I forgot to let listeners know how we met through the AWA plus D symposium, and you were one of the speakers that I moderated at the symposium this year as well.
That's right. That was a really great experience, and getting to connect with the people there. And I think one thing maybe that I would say for people to share from my experience is, if you find that thing that you're passionate about, whatever project type it is, the work area that you're in, like my road took me a long time to realize it, but I think I want people to learn, go after the thing that you're really passionate about, because that will sustain your work.
Oh, Thank you. That's perfect. Well, Annette, thank you again. And Annette, where can listeners connect with you?
People can connect with me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. I'll provide a link in the show notes so you can connect with Annette through LinkedIn. Annette, thank you again.
Thanks, Katerina. See you soon.
Yes, see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of From the Honeycomb podcast. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with your friends. To stay connected, follow me on Instagram at From the Honeycomb podcast, and you can support the podcast through the Patreon link in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to my monthly newsletter where I share exclusive behind-the-scene content and tips on running a mindful and successful architecture business. Thank you again for listening, and stay curious.